people would expect of a player of him. Then Season 3 WCS, he really turned things up at the end of the year. And then this year, he's been bringing it back. And he still finds himself up against players with better win rates against him throughout the course of the year. But I mean, you make it this far, anything can happen now.
Yeah, and one of the funny things is as well that, of course, MMA, despite perhaps 2013 not being the best year of his career, he did make it to Blizzcon. But the moment that he lost back then against Bomber, he made one of the saddest tweets that he's ever made. And he's just like, man, I'm devastated. I'm so disappointed right now, but I'll be back next year. I'll be back. And he kept his word. He qualified again for Blizzcon, and now he's here in the semifinals, doing so much better than he did in 2013. That is also true dedication. At the moment you lose in 2013, you can only think about one thing: 1 year from now on, I'll get another shot.
Yeah, and as we start to see the openings of these players unfold, very, very economic Rotterdam. We're not having any type of tricky play yet from Classic. It's possible that after this Nexus first, he'll maybe move into some tech, but you do need to be careful because those Marines can make things really difficult if you cut back on your army production after a fast expand.
No, indeed, very, very economic openings from both players. I do kind of like these spawning positions for MMA, because if I'm Classic, I'm always a little bit worried about my natural being dropped. It's kind of hard to cover all the areas because, of course, the medevacs don't have to fly in from the right side. They can fly in from a different angle as well. So a single cannon, or perhaps even 2 cannons, is not always going to cut it. We saw certain Protoss players warp in 6 cannons to defend a location like this. So that's going to be very interesting. This is just, I think, shaping up to be a fantastic series. And MMA seemed confident. I saw him early this morning. He was just doing his thing, eating his breakfast, and he really seemed like he believed that he was going to be able to do this.
It'll be interesting. As you said, the spawns definitely are nice for the drops. The first probe scout comes in, and you see this, you're like, well, there's nothing really that throws you off. Just seeing the 1 barracks isn't quite enough, but you'd have a couple more Marines if you open barracks first. It's definitely not a Reaper at this point, so you can rule out a fast gas being taken by MMA. However, as you said, those drops, I mean, once MMA gets his 3rd base, it's a very short flight over to the natural of Classic.
Yeah, relatively quick engineering bay there. Perhaps a tiny bit worried about some of those crazy Oracle plays that Classic has shown over the last few weeks, we could even say, and also in different matchups, but in particular in this one too. Of course, it's always nice to have access to those missile turrets, and perhaps MMA is even going to go for a very quick +1. We do see the Stargate going down, and normally I would not be too surprised by it, especially because all the analysts mentioned it as well. You know, Classic loves his Stargate play, and we saw it last week. He loves his Oracles. But after a command center or a Nexus first, it's kind of an odd timing then for your Oracle.
Yeah, you know, there are some pushes that and you delay your tech a little bit. Suddenly, you know, 8, 9 Marines come walking up. And then we've seen Terran players throw these away. I mean, the photon overcharge could kill them, but you're still going to be able to pick off some workers here and there. However, something else that was mentioned that I really like, aside from this fast engineering bay opening, it's just sitting on the 2 barracks play, and you're going to use that gas to likely move a little bit faster up to that factory than you normally would. He does actually get the 3rd barracks before he moves on to that, which is a little bit unusual if you wanted to get the fast medevacs out. But with missile turrets already in place, the Oracle really shouldn't be able to accomplish too much.
Quick robotics facility follow-up for Classic as well. Could potentially still go crazy on a little bit of Colossus action later on as well, but I think we're going to see a relatively defensive Classic for now, and there we go. We see him warping in the Forge. Of course, we'll give him access to all those Protoss upgrades that are very important in this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, MMA, nothing really crazy is going on in this game just yet. Really, the ball is in Classic's court because of the Stargate opening, and we've seen great use against Polk, keeping track of that army. The Oracle, not only was his micro fantastic to pick off SCVs and delay important tech structures, but he also did a great job of getting the revelations on those forces so that, you know, Polk could never actually leave his base without Classic knowing exactly where he was going.
Classic definitely not the type of Protoss player that will just fly his Oracle in and fly it over a bunch of Marines. He had marvelous control in some of those games that Mr. Turret did complete for MMA. Some players like to just get it 24 out of 25 seconds, and then the moment they see the Oracle, they actually complete it. Otherwise, they might even cancel it, but MMA just completed it, and it's a good investment. Wow, Classic is thinking again about that ridiculously quick turret base. I mean, without the Twilight Console, this seems even harder to me to defend.
Yeah, it's very similar in a way to how he had set himself up before, but of course he wasn't going quite for the same tech that we saw against Polk when he made the same plays.
Oh, unfortunately, we're going to have to rehost this game, and we'll try to hop back into the action as quick as possible. Unfortunate moment. It's the calm before the storm, basically. This is like a minute or two before things will go absolutely crazy over here, and that's when the action really kicks in. So I guess if there was ever a moment, Nate, may as well be.
And one thing I did want to mention, Roddy, as these players get their openings going, not a map that asks for builds like Command Center first, so we should see things turn up a little bit faster. MMA with this barracks into quick gas looks like he's going to go for a standard Reaper expand. Now, Classic, what have you seen him do on this map in this matchup?
Classic has played a very, very surprising low amount of games against Terran in the last 4 or 5 months. Up to the round of 16 of Blizzcon, I think his last win against the Terran was in GSL Season 2. After that, he played against a few Terrans like TY and maybe it was Fantasy. I don't know, one of the other Pro League Terrans. He lost a couple of best of ones, but that's it. There is just not a whole lot of information out there. But of course, just a week ago, Classic played in the round of 16 of this WCS Grand Finals against Polt, and he had a cool build on this map, Nate. He went for that Twilight into that very quick 3 base, where he had like 3 bases at the 9-minute mark, and he was still offensive with some Blink Stalkers, trying to keep Polt
yeah, he forced Polt to build a couple of bunkers inside of his base. He had him a little bit on, you know, not on the ropes, but you keep a Terran worried enough to invest defensively, and then you don't have any way to punish that greedy third.
And then the worst thing was for Polt, when he finally wanted to move out, he picked up his units and Classic blinked forward and sniped one of the medevacs. And on that moment, you know, Classic was basically securing himself very, very quick access to 3 bases, and he was just having the time of his life. He was having a crazy amount of minerals to work with, a lot of gas to work with later on as well, and he was relentless. He actually looked extremely good on King Sejong Station a week ago.
Yeah, speaking of a lot of gas, MMA, as the Stargate boots up for Classic, has gone for a factory opening. And you asked me about this earlier, but the positioning of this factory could very easily just put out a few Marines and go for Hellions. You could go for a Widow Mine drop. Still, all the options are on the table for MMA in this map because, you know, there's a lot of ways the Oracle can go into your main, but, you know, the same holds true for a medevac.
Yep, and you can only photon overcharge 1 base, Nate, and when you make an Oracle investment, of course, you know, that Stargate costs money, and the Oracle is quite expensive as well. And if the Oracle is on the other side of the map and he uses his energy, you don't have a whole lot at home. And I think that MMA is banking indeed on the fact that Classic may be playing with Oracles over here, and that's why he might go for a Hellion build if he decides to go with it. But if he does, Nate, I'm gonna go excited because I know a lot of workers are going to die very early on.
Yeah, it will take some really good control from Classic to defend. Of course, at the same time, MMA doesn't have a lot of anti-air, but that Stargate offers a very fast route to tech that will allow him to deal with the medevacs once he gets some Phoenix out. So it's still...
You think he's going to
This is going to come down to the control, I feel, for both players.
You think this is one of these games where he's going to make a bunch of Phoenixes as well? I am not sure. It's possible, but I kind of feel that if he wants to go Phoenix Twilight, then it's a different type of build.
He would usually have his Forge starting instead of this Robotics facility at this point. Wow, that's a really great read. You get to see the Oracle coming across. Hopefully noticed it in time to get preparations. His Marines are there. It's not quite 6, though. You need 6 Marines to actually handle an Oracle.
Yeah, we don't really have a whole lot of Marines. This Oracle should just get to the main base as quick as possible and try to work on an SCV or so. He's going to pick up the first worker kill of the game there.
Yeah, not a bad pickup at all. And this is putting the pressure on MMA because that medevac will finish, or excuse me, actually going straight for the Viking first, but you can't get the medevac because you have to worry about this. You're not allowed to be as aggressive as normal. And let's see what these Hellions are able to do because he has to dance these Marines around while simultaneously trying to be aggressive. He will barely escape with that Oracle.
All right, let's take a look at the natural of Classic as these Hellions are swinging in, and the Reaper, I believe, was the unit there that went down, but he did force out a photon overcharge immediately. So for now, yeah, this looks okay for Classic, but it's of course the next wave that is going to be the scary one, when there is a medevac in the mix as well, when there are a bunch of Marines and those Hellions are still alive, especially because he is indeed building the Phoenixes like you mentioned, Nate, but 1 or 2 Phoenixes is not going to make the difference. You really need 3 or 4.
Yeah, and he's continuing to pump them out, and we talked about this earlier. When you make this investment, you won't see those forges, you don't see crazy amounts of observers. He will get a forge, but this is going to cut down on his ability to get actual tech. So you really have to be careful with the choices that you make if you're Classic, since MMA is still trying to bring pressure on because he's gone for this really heavy gas opening.
Yep, Forge is halfway done, but this is going to be a very interesting moment. The Phoenix count is at 3 now, I believe, as Classic decides to use some of his resources to warp in that robotics bay. It's actually so important that Oracle is still alive as well, Nate, because that Oracle can really help in dealing with these Marines. That will make his life so much easier. But here we go. MMA is going to try to unload a couple of these Marines in the back of the main base of Classic. If he just kills that medevac like that, another photon overcharge goes down in the natural, but a lot of work is going down already, Nate, and the units are still out of position for Classic.
Yeah, those Hellions really distracting and causing Classic to spend his energy away from where the real threat was, and lots of probes dropping here for Classic. The Marines, yeah, he's going to be able to kill them, but MMA got a lot more than I think you typically expect to get with these types of plays. And when you're even in economy in Terran versus Protoss, Protoss can chrono boost their workers to build them faster, but if you're even, the mules that the Terran has will make them much more effective as well.
A little bit confused there why he activated Envision. That doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. He is able to pick up 1 FCVs. Of course, Phoenixes are very quick units, and as long as the Marines are not in high numbers and don't have stim, these Phoenixes can actually just fly into the base from every single angle and pick up an SCV or 2 here and there. So eventually, Classic should be able to do a little bit of economic damage as well, but that Viking is making it complicated. I still think he will get some work done with them, though. And while we actually take a look at the first-person view of Classic now, we see that he's going up to 3 bases immediately, Nate.
Yep, he's really saying that the late stim caused by opening up with that fast drop gives him enough time to get this third while simultaneously spreading out his observers, getting all the tech. And we can just kind of see he's keeping his eyes on these Phoenix.
He's keeping his eyes everywhere, Nate. He's so fast. I can't follow.
Well, I mean, we see the first-person view, we're like, man, these guys actually are really, really disgustingly good.
Yep, he's going to fly in over here on a weird angle of this refining, but we'll get a couple of these SUVs and hopefully we'll not lose a single Protoss, or excuse me, a single Phoenix in that process, as he did try to micro them a little bit there in the end. MMA has a dropship on the top side of this map, and this medevac is heading towards the Nexus. I'm not sure if there's enough DPS in that drop to cancel the Nexus, as the Nexus should have quite a bit of HP, but we'll see. I don't think a single medevac is going to be enough over here, but at least he will get the confirmation that it's there. But with the Phoenixes out on the map as well, I'm afraid he might actually end up losing this medevac, Nate, because against Phoenixes, there's no retreat.
Yeah, that's the beauty of the Phoenix, that that medevac boost only lasts so long. Now the Marines will come up, kill a probe, cancel a pylon, but you don't have enough damage output to take care of this third base before the Gateway army arrives with that Colossus.
Classic was really paranoid there, that there was like a double drop going on at the same time, you know, because often there's one medevac drop on the north side and then the big drop swings into your main and you lose all these workers. But Classic was actually anticipating something that wasn't happening, which is good news for MMA, because now he might actually be able to get out of there with a few Marines and that one medevac.
You don't want to lose those this early into the game. Those are the big threats that you want to keep. It has the same effect as the Oracle, as the Protoss player. You always keep the Protoss guessing where that medevac is. It's like, where did those 8 Marines go? And at the same time, we see here he's getting ready to push on the left side. He can try to work on the rocks. And these Phoenix are scouring the map.
The Marines have stim, by the way. If they stim over here, they may have been able to pick off a Phoenix, but that is not going to happen. They do still have control of that Zelnaga watchtower. As Classic also have an observer in the middle of the map. That's something he didn't have in the last game, and this is so important. PvT is 100,000 times easier if you have map vision. It just makes your life so much better as a Protoss player. So these observers, it's very important for Classic that they stick around and that they won't get picked off.
Yeah, this Phoenix Colossus style is so interesting. Phoenix build very, very fast. Takes 35 seconds when you chrono boost. It's even less so. It allows you to spend the same amount of resources per minute as basically building Thors non-stop. You're going to go and supply very quickly because you're also building Colossi, and this causes Classic to have this interesting art. You look at the supply, it's like Protoss is generally not ahead at this point of the game because you think Marines and Marauders build fast, but it's still a very large army for Classic.
Yeah, it is. It's just a lot of army. He's not very well upgraded yet, though. He does have extended thermal lens, and I believe that he's working on +2 armor. No, he's actually working on +1 attack, excuse me, as that one is about to finish up. But I do agree, it's a lot of Protoss units, and normally he's not up in supply in this phase in the game. There's a lot of energy on these Phoenixes as well. That's something that MMA has to be very, very cautious of, because if MMA loses a fight, well, these Phoenixes are going to swing in and are going to pick up every single unit that's trying to retreat.
I almost feel like he could have tried to just go for those 8, but now he sees him coming on the left side. He wants to have every unit prepared. Of course, the photon cannons to defend will also give him a little bit of time to react once forces move in. That brave probe running past some Widow Mines. And his scan for MMA is like, Can I attack this? No, but I at least want to keep you thinking about the possibility of me moving in.
Yep, and it's nice to take out those rocks, because then you know, okay, at least I have a future access into it, and I don't always have to drop into the main base. I do like the passive playstyle now from MMA. I know some people think like, why isn't he trying to drop? But the moment you fly in with anything right now, it's guaranteed to die, because the Phoenixes are too fast. Nothing will ever get away. So as a Terran player, if you take a fight against his army composition, well, you better be damn sure that you're actually going to win the fight as well. Otherwise, everything will die. There's just no retreat against his army.
You have to completely commit yourself to killing the Phoenix Colossus push if you want to win. Now, +2 attack is done for MMA, so he has a nice window where he will be able to kill these units pretty quick. And I actually love this position of the Widowmine. You can try to use the Vikings. If you bait them over, that splash damage, man, it works on all Protoss units. There's a lot of work he can get done here if he can control the movement of Classic's Air Force.
Yeah, I would love to see the Viking number right now, because I believe we're at a pretty solid number. We're at 13. That may sound impressive. That's like, hey, that's a lot of Vikings. But against 5 Colossus and also the 11 Phoenixes, I don't think that's enough, Nate. I really think that MMA needs close to 20 Vikings. I really think that's the number that he should be aiming for, because he can ignore those Phoenixes. The Phoenixes are not a big issue during the potential fight, as a Widowmine will pick off a Zealot. I think there's still the other Widowmine as well that was tucked away, or maybe that's the same one.
This revelation is so nice, just being able to keep tabs on the army. See, well, if you were to load into your medevacs, I'd be able to see, and I mean, we can tell that because his production has been so Viking-focused, he actually doesn't have a crazy number of medevacs. 5 on the map in total. It's not really going to be enough to deal with a huge engagement if those Vikings don't kill all the Colossi.
I feel like MMA is playing with fire.
Oh my, he gets all of the Phoenix with his Widowmine. Well, that's... you know what? He baited Classic real hard. I think he baited us. I didn't quite see how he positioned those. That was... You can't ask for better than that, Ronnie.
No, that was sick. I was worried because MMA has such an impressive production tab right now. He has +3 attack about to finish up, +2 armor about to finish up. He has 3 ghosts on the way and cloak, and he could still get a few more Vikings. So I was really worried. I was like, wow, he's playing with fire, but he was actually still not trying to commit, and he knew the only thing that prevented him from like losing his army and starting a fight that he couldn't possibly win was the Widowmines. Like, Protoss doesn't want to fight against Widowmines if there's no detection there.
Yeah.
So
I'm really interested to see where Classic goes with this now, because he still has a very powerful ground army. This transition into Storm makes sense.
The boys are being pulled, Nate. And it's a lot of them.
Every SCV, he's bringing them to help tank up some damage. And with that low Phoenix count, he has the potential to kill all of these Colossi very quickly. There's no blink. The Stalkers are highly immobile.
There is no +2 attack either for these Colossus. A lot of the Phoenixes are gone. Here we go. A couple of EMPs raining down on this Protoss army.
Yeah, he's fighting at the bottom of this ramp. There's not a lot to hit the Vikings, but there's still a tremendous number of Colossi. MMA just needs to buy some time. Keeps pulling back chunks of his bio. If he can get up this ramp and actually kill the Colossi, the rest will be easy for him to finish off.
Yeah, but will he be able to, though? It seems like he has lost most of the SCVs. He has lost most of the Marines, and Classic will actually stabilize.
That's a big victory in this fight for Classic, as he's already taking his 4th base. MMA does not seem to have enough to break him in this next Zealot Warp, and with charge, he's going to push him away. Wow. MMA, after picking off all those Phoenix, it looks so good, but still fighting up a ramp like that, a choke point like that, when there's Archons in the mix, you have to be understanding the risks that that are associated with this kind of play.
Just look on the right side of the screen now, Nate. Storm is ready, Blink is going to be ready, and +2 attack is going to be ready. I feel that everything looked great there for MMA. Of course, like up the ramp is a little bit awkward, but I still felt he was so far ahead that normally that he would be okay with that. I just think the biggest problem was the Viking number was not where it should have been. You saw there were 4 Colossus left, and a couple of them were so low on HP, and we look at a completely different game if he kills 2 Colossus a little bit quicker. But meanwhile, a couple of these Marauders are going to try to work on this Nexus, will bait out a Storm. MMA has lost so many workers.
Yeah, MMA, you pull those SCVs in as that 4th base is building in a direction that you weren't attacking, and this big drop is kind of a desperation play. At the same time, the War Prism heading into his base will further complicate things as so much of his army supply is out on the map.
Yep, this is going to be very frustrating, especially because he's so low on SCVs already. So if you would end up losing a bunch of them, that would just be the worst thing that could potentially happen to MMA. Even just losing a few Marauders kind of hurts right now. Dropping is not really an option anymore, and I feel this is a phase in the game, Nate. This is where Classic is going to start excelling. He's going to have the upgrades that he's looking for. He's on 4 bases. He's going to have a couple of defensive cannons, a couple of defensive High Templars. It's very hard to drop this guy. This is going to be extremely difficult now for MMA. He really had to win the game when he pulled the boys, but he didn't.
Yeah, it's people don't call it an all-in for nothing. He has a very large hill to climb if he wants to get back into this game. And oftentimes you'd say the Terran player, you know, you can have a really rough time versus a 3-base Protoss when you're on 4. When the Protoss is on 4 and you're having a tough time getting your own, you know you're in a really difficult position as Terran. So this base, it's not even a planetary fortress. So yeah, the extra mule is going to help a lot with the economy. But if you get attacked before you max out, you don't really have a lot of tools available to help defend.
Okay, the only, I think, mistake that Classic could make is if he wants to go a little bit too fancy. If he wants to win this game with Warp Prism and Harass and stuff like that. And I'm not saying that, oh, okay, that's a nice little pickup there for MMA. That's a pretty expensive unit to lose, the good old High Templar. But if Classic just sits back and somehow gives MMA the time to max out, then he can definitely still end up losing this game. Even though he's going to have a way bigger bank, he's going to probably have more resources, or at least access to more resources as well. One of the things that he won't have is a bigger army, because if MMA maxes out, he has like 20 workers less than Classic, so MMA's army is going to be a lot more impressive.
Yeah, I really wasn't sure about the Templar positioning in this game. I'm still not sure for Classic. He's leaving a lot of them at all of his bases, which normally makes sense. MMA, though, is building ghosts. He's not playing quite like Pol. I really feel like worrying about a 6-7 medevac Doom drop that you need to have Templar at every base for isn't the focus of MMA's play style. And Classic, as MMA approaches max, and he's actually managed to climb back up in worker count, he's taken that 4th. Suddenly, if you don't have a lot of those Templar with your army and you try to attack a Terran up a ramp, I mean, you're going to see him fail as miserably as MMA did earlier on.
He still has way more High Templars than MMA has Ghosts, though. But I do completely agree with you, Nate. The only good thing about this is that if Classic will lose a fight, then he doesn't necessarily lose the game because he has so many defensive High Templars to fall back on. Also because he's backing them up with cannons, and there is nothing harder for a Terran than to break into cannons and High Templars at the same time. It's just frustrating to deal with that stuff. But yeah, I think Classic made a mistake. He was pretty far ahead. I think he could have just started being aggressive, tried to deny a 4th base, and he tried to do it a little bit too fancy. He's dropping a couple of Zealots. He is moving forward, though, with his main army in the middle of the map.
Yeah, he's trying to catch this army out of position. Not going to happen. Those Vikings actually came back from a great angle, too, to hit those Colossi being on the right side of the army. But you make a great point. These Templar back home, and with this huge line of cannons, if you counterattack, you can't just win a fight. You have to dominate a fight to have enough to break those defenses.
Yep, +3 armor is about to finish up. At least MMA is completely back into this game, though, Nate. He has 58 workers, and that's really cool because he was all the way down to 34. As Classic is just adding in a Dark Shrine as well. He's running out his stack. But I think for MMA right now, this is kind of like, well, I kind of thought I was dead already in this game, so now at least I have something to work with. Good blink there, though, by Classic. Picks off one of these medevacks immediately.
A couple units trying to move forward up this ramp to the 4th base. Storms are ready to push him back. A couple of these Templar being a bit adventurous. Of course, feedbacks on these high-energy ghosts will kill them instantly, but you don't want to get sniped.
Feedbacks are a beautiful thing, Nate, if you play Protoss. It's one of the most satisfying F-clicks you'll ever make.
Yeah, well, there's quite a bit of that happens, but the thing is, of course, the ghost energy will cause them to die in that one shot, but snipe, even though it takes 2, it has longer range. You really need to be careful with the position. It's all about the positioning of these armies now, and this Warp Prism is doing its best to draw them out. I actually love that, the scan and EMP on the DT to make sure that it wouldn't be able to get in, but that's where that Dark Shrine becomes so useful.
Isn't 2 negatives a plus, Nate? I think if you reveal Dark Templar twice, it should be invisible again.
No thanks. Storms are going to come take a nice little chunk out of this army, but he's really moving him around a lot. And this army is quite clumped up. The EMPs are hitting this very nicely.
There must be an observer, right? Yeah, okay. He's chasing down the ghosts right now, so he's going to see them. There are a lot of Vikings in the mix, so the Vikings are going to try to deal with these Colossus, but a good storm there by Classic and a fantastic blink. Oh my God!
The flanking storms are really sealing the deal here for Classic. So many Marines and Marauders dying. He's still going to kill all the Templar. He did pick up all of the Colossi. They both traded out all of their important expensive units.
Yeah, he lost a lot of High Templars there. Of course, those storms were great, at least the first few. After that was small overkill, but MMA is actually still even in supply, which surprises me because it felt that fight was going a lot worse for him. Of course, Classic is still in a phenomenal position. He has money in the bank. He is still able to harass as well, but losing all these Colossus and losing your High Templars at the same time, that has to be a little bit scary.
Yeah, this Warp Prism harass has been pretty good so far. Actually, this command center very important for MMA to hold on to, as you will need a planetary fortress. You do not want to float out one of your exposed orbitals to that left side base. And as the Stalkers get close, of course, you don't want to overcommit yourself and lose them to those forces, and the Marauders are coming to chase.
Oh, he's a little bit too late with the replay there. Ooh, Classic almost misclicked his Stalkers as well after he made a defensive blink. He could have lost a lot of them.
And nice play by Classic, though, to grab that base, because at the same time, he's taking the left side base. He has that right side base now. He's got money in the bank. He's going to start to max out very soon.
This looks like an AI base, man. It's like a single pylon with 4 cannons and a bunch of random High Templars. It's like, which mission is this of the campaign? It's like, well, the impossible
This is the mission where they show you the High Templar. They're like, yeah, you only build these guys. Just defend with cannons. You got this.
Exactly, and then the army runs up the ramp. You're like, ah!
Then you get the campaign upgrade for like 5,000 damage Storm.
Mm-hmm. In a big area once. Still though, MMA trying to hang in there. He did once more lose a bunch of SCVs, fell all the way back to 48. But he's still mining, and he still has 7 Vikings in his army. He still has 5 Ghosts. Classic has 13 High Templars right now spread across the map. You know, in the past I've often watched these games, and in a late game I was like, I wish this Protoss had a few more High Templars. I definitely can't say that about Classic.
Yeah, he's had a steady 13. Actually now adding in a couple more, he's up to 15 High Templar on the map.
Make it rain.
Yeah, you know, it's like, yeah, High Templar are really strong, but you need to perfectly use all those storms. In MMA, in as many places as he's been, it's very difficult to directly engage him, because the defensive advantage of having Ghosts will make it very hard to actually push into anywhere. You kind of need MMA to attack into you.
Yeah, well, we saw that game between Sun and Jakji, where the Protoss was actually quite okay with just being very comfortable for the longest amount of time. As it is very difficult for a Terran to deal with this. Somehow this big army in the north side of the map actually went completely undetected. So a couple of these pros might get picked off, a High Templar might get picked off, and then Nexus will fall as well. But at the same time, Classic is also harassing in the main base.
Yeah, those Blink Stalkers are doing a great job of chasing the storms. As well, using that Warp Prism speed, but he will escape with some forces. 17 SCVs do die to the Zealot counter harass.
Great play by both players there.
Yeah, ooh, playing with fire. Classic, though, he is very close to maxing. He has a significant number of resources banked up. His economy has just been dominating MMA's pretty much ever since MMA sent all of his workers to attack.
Yep, MMA unloaded those units once more on the high ground, by the way, threw down his cannon. As soon as his army moves out, he's going to try to swing in one more time. Again, he can pick off a High Templar or two and maybe a Nexus, but these War Prisms are definitely a pain in the existence of MMA, as he doesn't really have a whole lot of forces right now in his main base, I believe.
The one nice thing for MMA is that Classic
is maxed out.
Classic was maxed out. I think he actually just killed one of his own units just to warp in this Dark Templar.
Well, Zeratul will go on a mission. My life for Iron, Nate. I've heard that many times this weekend.
Well, it's so annoying for MMA to have to deal with those plays, Roddy. It pulls the attention of the Terran all the way back home, and when a Terran is maxed out, there's no recall. You have to leave supply in your base to defend.
A couple of EMPs could do a lot of damage there. Storm still does go down, but the 2 Colossus do take a lot of damage. It's just so frustrating for MMA. There are so many cannons everywhere that even if he lands a good EMP or 2, that doesn't mean that he can just go for it, because there are High Templars hidden everywhere.
Yeah, and he's done a good job of sniping observers in the early mid-phase of this game as well, but with the cannons, you have the detection, so the Ghosts don't get to run up for free and get snipes or, just kill the army. So he's picking off a good number of Colossi here and there. However, the further up he moves, this army position looks really terrible, actually, from Classic.
Yeah, but he still has so many storms that you can say that maybe he's going to be able to get away with it. But
the EMPs are hitting all of the Templar. He gets in with a few storms. Zealots coming in from both sides, but this is not enough yet for Classic.
There's still a Colossus on the north side of this battle, though, and there are more storms raining down, and like I said, these cannons are so frustrating to deal with, but oh my god, it's so many cannons. This guy truly
get the Colossus. Viking moves over. This is like the last Big Daddy unit. There's the storms on the left side, and he still has a couple of these units alive.
He's a couple, Nate. He has storms 4 days. MMA took a good fight in the start, but Classic just had too much, and he will win the second game and even up our first series semifinals of the day to a 1-1 score.
And there was
that was a cool game.
I mean, Classic made it rain more that game than I think I've seen the entire 8 months I've lived out here in Southern California, man. Those storms did not stop once he managed to hold off really that initial attack. Yeah. MMA made his big push. He brought all of his SCVs, and you said it right before Blink, right before +2, right before Storm. But losing that fight,
paper, it was going to be very difficult.
Yeah, impressive play from our Protoss player on the last map. We are loaded into Overgrowth, guys, for game 3. In the top right, he is tied 1 apiece. The blue Protoss from SK Telecom T1 Classic.
And on the left bottom side of Overgrowth, we have our red Terran player. He is representing Acer. Give it up for MMA.
So Overgrowth, you know, it's a 2-player like Kingston Station, like we said, but you don't have those wide sides of your base that are open. And in the older days, you would have thought, okay, that's good for, you know, makes it better or worse for Blink builds. But in this matchup, it has, I feel, just a bigger impact on the late game. You're going to have an easier time defending the space of Protoss. You don't need to spread your High Templar out as much. And for a Terran player, it can make defending early aggressive plays a little bit more difficult sometimes.
That is true. So far, Classic has definitely shown us that he loves his target play, that he loves going around with these oracles, and he's actually going to scout relatively quickly this time as well. I guess perhaps Polt got into his head a little bit with all these command center build first, even on maps where you don't normally expect it, like Overgrowth. And this probe will identify that he's playing against a pretty normal opening with that gas, and it will most likely be a Reaper opening for MMA.
Yeah, I mean, the Reaper builds are pretty much the gold standard in Terran versus Protoss. You want to be able to get around and scout. Of course, the Stalker is fast enough to chase down SCVs. It's difficult to get follow-up scouts, and this probe manages to get in right before you really have to worry about losing it to anything like that Reaper. So he can just go home. He could try to hide himself somewhere. But without that second gas, it doesn't seem likely that he would try to pull anything too cheeky.
No. I was thinking about it, though, because Classic is definitely the type of guy that if I was a Terran player, I want to make sure that that probe actually went home, because you never know what it's up to. We saw that in his series earlier in this tournament against Hero. But for now, everything is very standard for him. Even started the Zealot, just in case there would be an SCV making his way across the map, trying to drop an engineering blade to prevent this Nexus from going down, but he doesn't have to worry about that. So he can cancel the Zealot and can just start his Mothership Core as soon as possible. And then we're just looking at a normal economic Protoss versus Terran for now.
Yep. Relatively standard game so far, but we have seen Classic open up with these regular economy builds and then go into his what have you type play. But another factory opening from MMA beyond the Reaper expand. And MMA is still one of those Terrans that does this often enough that I wouldn't rule it out, but I really feel like this has fallen off for a lot of other Terran players lately.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised to see it on Overgrowth. Like you said, for all the reasons you just mentioned, Nate, it makes a lot of sense to do something like that on Kingston Station, a lot of surface area and the main base as well. Doing something like this on this map, I think a lot of Terran players would be a little paranoid, but maybe MMA is kind of playing into the way that Classic is approaching this matchup as well. As so far, Classic hasn't been too crazy, even though, Nate, this 4 minute and 50 seconds robotics facility, he might just do something with that.
Oh, you know, this is...
Immortal Sentry?
I mean, this is giving me some weird vibes, man. We've seen Classic... We've seen, actually, twice. I think this is actually could segue into that Colossus play. I mean, at this point, with the opening that MMA is doing, it's not even bad to just get, if you want to do something crazy, we've seen players like Huck, you go build some Immortals, get a big gateway push, and it's been done a couple of times, but catching people off guard seems to be something that Classic's good at. I wonder if, I really want to know where he wants to take this. And actually, the second gas from MMA, before he even has a tech lab to get stim, I'm not sure what he's up to this game.
What if MMA does the Polt build?
That would blow my mind. If you guys didn't catch last week on this map, Polt against Classic did a nuts like Marine Hellbat siege tank and like Blue Flame Hellbat. He got mech upgrades to go for a pretty wild push, but the Reaper runs in. It's going to try to get some scouting. Does get picked off. Hellions running the natural. He's going to try to get some probes, and he will pick up a few. 2 so far. But of course, you kind of get a little bit of information. You see this gas being taken already, pretty much before the natural mineral line is saturated. Can be a bit confusing.
I think that's actually okay, picking up 4 probes in this phase in the game, just like that. 2 Hellions, like, yeah, it's a reasonable investment, but I think most Terran players are quite okay with that. Of course, he would have loved to force out a photon overcharge as well, but can't have it all in life, Nate.
No, Stim is on the way. 2 extra barracks being built. The robotics bay is in production, and we've got +1 armor. Now, this medevac drop, of course, Widow Mines, if they splash, they will kill all probes within their radius, so you need to be able to pull your workers out very quickly or position. Just don't let them burrow. The last thing you want is have to deal with those, especially if you don't have any observers at home.
I mean, of course, Classic did have very fast access to that robotics facility as he walked it in, like, even before the 5-minute mark, and he had Stalkers in a good position over here as well, so he will usher this medevac out immediately. He did follow it up with a Robo Bay, and a Twilight console is going down now as well. He can still go many ways with this. He can continue building probes and just eventually go up to 3 bases, or he can still set himself up for a very strong 2-base attack. But that seems a little unlikely by now. So I actually think that Classic is just taking a defensive but macro-oriented approach to this game.
Yep. Colossus on the way, and with the Twilight finishing up at the same time as that +1 armor, he can either just move into a very standard 1-1 setup, maybe go for a Colossus push later on, or he can just go really fast +2 armor, try to take a third, draw this one out, and use a very powerful Zealot composition to deflect any attacks that MMA might throw his way.
I believe there is an observer on the right side of the map. I would love to see if this observer spots the medevac. I don't think Classic saw it. Of course, he does have units in position, but now there are 2 medevacs flying in at the same time. Okay, these Widowmites are just setting up a small trap while we do have a pause request from MMA. As hopefully this won't take too long, especially because we're right about to jump into the action on Overgrowth. Things are about to die, Nate.
Yeah, things are looking pretty interesting as we... I mean, it's tied 1-1. This is a series that a lot of people say, you know, MMA had some really good TVP lately. Classic, of course.
See, it's fun to get to know these guys a little bit better. And as you guys can see, we are back in the game once more. We, of course, sincerely appreciate we can just continue the action from now on and watch some amazing PvT.
Yeah, I like this. He's starting to move around. He wants to pull this army out of position so that he can go for that third base. The Photon Overcharge will defend for now. The Stalkers blink to the right side, and even just using that blink can open up a couple of moments for MMA to try to hit that third nexus. In Terran versus Protoss, even though MMA is taking his third, you generally want it before the Protoss player has it. This is one of the reasons why Classic has consistently been able to maintain an equal supply to MMA, where, as we were discussing on King Sejong Station, you generally expect the Terran to be ahead going into the mid-game.
Yep, Comet Shield is about to finish up, and +1 attack is about to finish up for Classic. But I feel you, Nate. I really think this is something where you kind of, if you're MMA right now, you're like, man, there must be an opening somewhere. But if you just look at the minimap vision of Classic, he doesn't see this, though. He doesn't see the bio units, and that could be tricky, because maybe a Colossus can get picked off that's in transit or something. But I love the vision of Classic. He has pylons spread out. He has an observer or 2. He's still already thinking about offensive matters in the later stage in the game. Classic is setting himself up in a very strong position.
Yep, I'm absolutely loving this play. And keep in mind, as we discussed earlier, I'm really interested to see, he will take the gas on his third base, so we won't have some sort of mega commitment to gateway units behind the Colossi. We're going to see him pull off, again, this fancy play. That Templar Archives is coming in. His storms were pretty damn good last game.
But this is very different, though. This is a lot quicker. He has super quick access to the High Templars this time, because in the last game, of course, there was a Stargate game as well, but he went up to 5 Colossus. And just to take things into perspective right now, I believe he only has 2 Colossus currently out on the map. So he's actually not as strong as Protoss normally is. And if MMA would go absolutely bananas now on aggression, okay, he has 3 Colossus. That's a little bit better, but it's still a quick transition into Storm.
You make a really good point. You're at the weakest phase that you'll be at against a Terran player that has what I would say is enough Vikings to really make something happen. Again, this is a situation where if he pulled his SCVs right now, I think he actually could just kill Classic.
But he doesn't have too many SCVs, though, Nate. He only has 47, but it seems like a lot of units are making their way across the map, though. But I do not believe that those are SCVs. For now, actually, maybe few more. Are those the boys?
Oh,
yeah,
boy.
Well, the boys are coming once more.
The boys are back in town, Roddy. He's bringing his forces over. One more push to try to seal the deal. A couple of ghosts are out. This is very important. He doesn't...
Storm, 14 seconds. Couple of force fields going down. It's so important that Classic has enough time for Storm to finish up.
These Storms will potentially be game-winning if he can get up here. Now, they're all on the right side. He can't get close enough. The Vikings are going to get the first volley off. Here come the Templar. One Colossus hurt a lot.
It's a High Templar.
Yeah, EMPing the gateway units a lot too, but he needs to get rid of the Storms. The first one drops, hits a lot of the Vikings. Those Colossi are suddenly going to become a lot more relevant.
I'm not sure if this is good enough for Classic, though. The Immortals not participating in the battle. The Storms are not killing a whole lot. They're dealing damage, but they're not killing really anything. A lot of Marines and Marauders are still alive, but another Storm will connect. But I think that these Archons are going to get picked off.
One final Storm dropped. You said it, Roddy. 22 SCVs lost fighting, making this push, but the Mothership Core is dead. It's just Zealots, and there's a hell of a lot of Marines here to fight. The probes coming off the line for Classic. One last desperate attempt to defend, and even EMPing probes, Roddy. That's just too much now.
Too much firepower in all these Marines that are still alive for MMA as he's working on this third base of Classic. 23 probes have gone down in the process. That was a very tricky fight and a very scary fight with all these High Templars having access to Storm, but they just didn't really kill a whole lot. I felt Classic was almost a little bit too trigger happy, but MMA just did a great job in baiting out those Storms, also landing an EMP or two. Of course, Classic is still gonna try, because hey, Storm is the comeback unit, but
yeah. He puts a ghost in the medevac, drops on top. I mean, well, he whiffed, but it was cool.
It was really cool. That is more than an A for effort.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, you can do whatever he wants. There's only one base that with barely any resources available for Classic, and 7 Zealots and 3 Observers, just not generally enough to stop a full Terran army.
Still so much firepower in all of these Marines. Very awkward position for these last Zealots from Classic to fight in. And that is going to be it. GG is called. MMA takes a 2-1 lead.
Going for the big push, Classic visibly shaken up after that game. Not an easy situation to be in. You know, he went for that Templar play. He got his +2 armor just as that fight started as well. And MMA had no armor. You don't have a follow-up to this. Unlike King Sejong Station, like you said, Kev, both players had a lot of late game things in place at that point. You guys are awesome. Kev, this is my first time coming to Blizzcon. A lot of you guys came out. You showed up. This arena is packed. It is so cool that there are so many passionate StarCraft fans here to watch the WCS Championship. Give yourselves another hand.
Yeah. We'll be joining you guys later on. We'll be just like you.
Oh, yeah. I can't wait to see how this all ends. So many great games left today. But MMA finds himself in the curious position of being very close to moving on to the grand final.
This is interesting, Nate. Map number 4 on merry-go-round, not really the biggest map in our current map pool. MMA decides to go for the command center first on the low ground. Now, this means that this is a very economic opening. We'll give him access to a lot of workers early on. Of course, won't allow him to be as aggressive as he was in the previous maps, at least not in the first few minutes of this game. Just a tiny bit surprised by it, because this is the type of map where I could see Classic open up rather crazy. Proxy Stargate is not, something that he's never done before on this map.
No, and on this map, it's quite good because you have that third spawning location, and you're generally not going to scout that base or that area after you determine your opponent hasn't spawned there. So it's great for hiding tech. Any variety of tech, honestly. But as you said, the Stargate play is good, not only because of that, but because, as I mentioned earlier, medevacs, right? You have so much space that you can approach that main from. You really need to be on your toes as both players in this matchup.
This could be very frustrating because Classic wants to get his own Nexus down, but MMA is going to prevent this from happening for now. So Classic will just start the Mothership Core before anything can possibly go down in this match. The probe is just phasing away at this SCV for now.
You do not want to have to do this if you're Classic. That SCV just being so annoying, and should be able to get this first worker kill here, Kev.
Yeah, he should. This SCV is going to... Boom! The probe getting the first blood.
The kiss of death.
But I actually think that SCV saw that pylon, right? It would be very nice to confirm that, because I think that is a kind of pylon that already, he saw it. And like the probe coming from that angle as well, isn't it a pylon that just screams like, I was born to warp in a Stargate?
I don't normally just patrol my probes at pylons that are at the end of my base. Usually they're there to do something.
We all have dreams and ambitions, and that pylon just screams that he wants to power a Stargate.
And then this map, it's going to allow him to go straight to that natural expansion. Of course, a command center first. It gives you access to the 2 barracks production, which, you know, you can get a lot of Marines out quickly, but MMA actually very quickly moved to his engineering bay, but also taking that gas. So the factory could come up before the 3rd barracks potentially. We've seen MMA get this just later 3rd barracks if he wants to as well, only so you can afford the missile turrets, which in this case would be quite useful because, as you said, he already saw that suspiciously placed pylon.
+1 attack going down as well, so this is a little bit identical to what we saw on Nimbus. Now on Nimbus I was still surprised that Classic wanted to go up to 3 bases that quickly, because that's not really a map where it's super easy to defend. You could say once it's all up and running, as the scan does go down in the main base, and of course, you know, if MMA wasn't sure yet, he's definitely sure now. I also think like he's purposely scanning on that side of the area because he did see that pylon. He's like, ah, well, if you're trying to hide anything, it's probably on that side of your main. So
this scan does so much for MMA. As a Terran player, you know, you're wondering, do I want to make the investment in the fast engineering bay? And players like Flash have shown that the fast +1 attack is very useful for defending and making early aggressive pushes. And as this Oracle moves through, it's not going to do a lot. Once this missile turret completes, though, because MMA made that scan, because he knows that the Stargate's here and he's already deflected the Oracle, there's less units than you normally have as a Protoss to defend back home, and we could see one of those little shoves that lots of Terran players have done in the past, especially on this map against Protoss.
I was about to say, especially on merry-go-round, because it's such a wide ramp, of course, in the natural. I can't believe it. Like, it's so crazy to think that MMA is 1 map win away from making it to the grand finals. Like, looking at the round of 16, there were very, very few people who thought that he was going to be one of the guys that could go all the way. But he's in a good position now, and like you said, those pushes on these maps, you know, it's just 1 successful bio attack away now, and MMA has done what I think almost nobody thought he could do.
Yeah, this has been a really well-played series. Classic still has a chance. He still has this map, and if he can win the next one to come back, but that Oracle loss, well, that's not going to help his chances.
That is such a huge pickoff for MMA. Oracles are so quick. They, of course, drop Revelation all the time. There is Charge on the way. There is Phoenix on the way. That also means... That also means, Nate, there's probably no robotics facility, and there won't be a robotics facility for a while. So if MMA decides to add in a Widow Mine or 2 here and there, and with 2 I kind of mean like maybe 4 or 6 eventually, I think that would be devastating for Classic to deal with.
MMA needs to figure out as fast as possible that there's no robotics facility. If he recognizes that this is the same style Classic used on this map to beat Polt with, which is how he got here in the first place, then Widow Mines will do a lot to help defend. Of course, the Zealots clump up. The splash damage is phenomenal, and you don't have those long-range Colossi to pick off those mines.
And of course, yeah, we just saw the Oracle was picked off. And when you're making Phoenixes, the last thing you kind of want to do is stop your Phoenix production and just go back to make another Oracle. They're very expensive units. It's just not something you want to put your resources in. Billy the Marine tried to get the key scout off there, Nate, but he didn't really see a whole lot. Charge wasn't ready yet. It's 10 seconds away from finishing up. He didn't see any of the Phoenixes, as of course Classic is hiding them, so good job there by Classic, preventing MMA from figuring out what is truly going on.
Yeah, the Templar Archive starts up. The +2 armor is on the way, and MMA does not yet have an armory. Even though he had his fast +1 attack, that +2 is very far off. This drop could hurt MMA a lot more than he's intending to hurt Classic.
This is very dangerous. Once again, against Phoenix charge slots, it's not really an army composition that you want to start dropping against, because every single unit that you send in is very committed. Classic has pylons spread across the top side of the map as well. Oh, he scans, and he's
very
like,
important scan for MMA.
I should not drop that. I should not go there.
Like, well, you know, I was thinking about booking a trip over there, and I just changed my mind. Just doesn't seem like a good idea, and because of that, he's going to save himself a world of hurt.
Yep, and this is very devastating, because when you play this style as a Protoss player, what you love the most is that first drop.
Please come in, bring all your units.
Please try to do something. Okay, he's still going to chase though, Nate. He's going to try to chase these units, and maybe here come the Zealots as well.
Catches an exposed medevac. Those Zealots are charging up now. They do not have that +2 armor just yet, but they still have the numbers. And MMA's bringing his rest of his forces up. He has Widow Mines. These Zealots are very vulnerable to the splash damage.
That was not a good fight, I think, at all for Classic. It started off promising, but the reinforcements from MMA.
And if he cuts him off, those Widow Mines move quite fast as well. He might be able to kill all these forces on the ground.
One more stim for MMA, and a lot of Zealots are forced to take a fight that they didn't want to take a fight, and there are Widow Mines as well. Classic has to retreat again. I don't think he can keep this base alive. Okay, he does have Archons now, though. though, Nate.
And he's going to use the rest of the energy on his Phoenix, leaving the Marauders up front to soak up the hits of those Archons. And as long as he keeps slowly inching these Widowmines forward, there's nothing here with enough range to comfortably deal with them, let alone any detection.
This is devastating for Classic. He just doesn't have the, okay, Widowmines do a little bit of friendly fire there, but still, though, this is not a good position for Classic at all. He's down in army supply, and above all, he has an army that's very kiteable. He has nothing to trap these units. The Marine count in general is too high. The only observer that he had just got picked off. You have to make another one, but you don't want to make observers now. I don't think he can defend his base.
Yeah, Photon Overcharge is nice, but the Marauders have the firepower necessary to take down this Nexus. He's going to attack into these Widowmines, and that splash damage just eradicates them, even with that +2 armor. The Archon focused on only one power unit left for Classic to defend.
There are very few people who thought that MMA would be in the finals of Blizzcon 2014, but now, Nate, it's starting to look like it. He's not there yet. He still has to work hard for it, but he has Widowmines. He has plenty of bio units streaming across the map, and he's still up in supply. There is another observer, though, and Photon Overcharge is doing some work.
Yeah, that +2 armor is the anchor because it just makes these Zealots able to soak up so much, but MMA has a lot of momentum. He's killed a lot of expensive units. He's taken his third base, and most importantly, he started his own additional upgrades. He's going to catch up as far as attack versus armor goes, and all Classic can do is just crutch himself on these Archons and hope that they can push him away.
The biggest problem with the Archons is just that they will most likely not be able to get very close to these bio units. Like, MMA has to make sure that if he takes a fight, it's actually a fight where he has a lot of firepower, so it's difficult. He's throwing away quite a few units over the last few minutes, and he has to be very cautious with that, because Classic was surprisingly, like, it almost looked impossible, able to defend that third base because of that Photon Overcharge.
Seriously impressive defense. That Nexus is very low. At some point, you know, I'm actually kind of surprised he didn't try to dive on that. That is so crucial. The minerals there, and it's not as big of a deal to get those upgrades.
MMA, of course, still in a pretty comfortable supply lead, and there is still no storm on the map. And Classic is still kind of in an uncomfortable position because he can fight against small amount of bio. He doesn't mind. I must say he has a surprising amount of Zealots. Jesus, and he's starting +3 armor as well.
Yeah, that's where things can get really complicated. So he's still only going to have that one upgrade lead because MMA got his armory up. But now the drops can come into play and still be tricky. You know, this is still, despite the Templar opening, it's not actually Templar. It's focusing just on the Archons.
MMA has to be very careful over here. He does have a lot of Widowmines.
Quite a few mines. You don't want to step too close. A lot of the shields peeled off of those Zealots.
There's a drop in the natural right now from Classic. That's actually doing quite a bit of damage.
Oh, and a mine there, too.
That's frustrating. Mine is going to do some friendly fire, perhaps. Oh, he's unburrowing it. Very well done there by MMA, making the best out of everything. Phoenixes are going to come in. The Widowmine should kill a Phoenix over here.
Yeah, not bad. At least doing the most that he can and picking off the Phoenix in the air. It's like, actually, they're all holding the Marines up, so they couldn't kill them.
These Marines are actually doing some serious work. This is really bad for Classic. He's losing 7-8 workers over here.
And he's still pressuring this third base, which has, you know, it's very vulnerable.
And he still has that Widowmine in the natural as well. Let's not forget about that.
Yeah, I'd love to see these Widowmines spread out on the high ground here outside this third.
That Zealot. That Zealot has a very, very poor job.
If MMA targets that, a lot of probes could die.
Yep. No, what are you doing, Zealot? Oh, okay.
Get back here.
Well, he definitely took one for the team there, because that could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think it was on purpose, but...
It's difficult to be cost and effective with MMA's army. The Phoenix are the only removal tools for these Widowmines. Nothing else has enough range. The Immortal can do a little bit of work, but if that's at the front of your army, you have other problems ahead of you. And MMA is getting ready to attack once again. Those +2 upgrades are ready.
It's a difficult ramp to fight on if you're Classic. Like, Zealots are very good in a wide open area. If they can get a surround on this army, they can definitely make the magic happen. But on a ramp, especially when there's just so many Widowmines over there.
Yeah, he's got a lot of forces out on the other side, too. The friendly fire, not as big of a deal. And Zealots just dying left and right. Ghosts are going to show up and EMP this army. Classic has run out of forces. MMA stampeding towards this third base. He wants to go to the grand finals here at BlizzCon 2014, and I don't think Classic can stop him anymore.
He will do it, Nate. Unbelievable run so far from MMA. An unbelievable performance. In almost every round, people thought he was an underdog. Maybe not so much against Stardust, but definitely in his quarterfinals against Bomber and even against Classic. Everyone's like, well, I don't think MMA is going to be able to do it. But he's stimming up the ramp, and he has done it.
GG MMA will go to the grand finals of BlizzCon 2014.
What series by him. I'm very, very, very impressed, man. Last year, Nate, after he lost in the round of 16, he said, basically expressed how sad he was, and he said, I'll be back next year. And from that moment on, he was looking forward to this moment.
Your grand finalist, MMA, moves on, and we are going to hear some thoughts on that match from our expert panel now.
Unbelievable. MMA is in the finals.